Welcome to another Ziva Math video. In this video, we will practice adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Before we get started, there are a few skills you need to be comfortable with to be successful when adding and subtracting mixed numbers. If you need more practice with these skills, click on the link to our fractions playlist or one of the listed videos in the description below. If you're ready, let's get started. Before we look at a problem with mixed numbers, think back to how you added whole numbers. You started on the right and you added the numbers in the ones place, then you added the numbers in the tens place, and then the numbers in the hundreds place. You'll work similarly when you're adding and subtracting mixed numbers. For our first problem, we have 2 and 1/3 plus 3 and 3/8. And just a second ago, we said we would work these problems similar to how we add whole numbers by starting on the right. So on the right, instead of starting in the ones place, we need to start with the fractions, which means we need a common denominator. So looking at 3 and 8, our common denominator is going to be 24. And so we're going to need to set up equivalent fractions with denominators of 24. So looking at the 3, I multiplied 3 by 8 to get to 24. And because I need an equivalent fraction, I need to multiply the numerator by the same thing. So I'm going to multiply the numerator by 8. And 1 times 8 is 8. And then I also have that whole number 2 there, so I'm going to bring it over just to make sure that I don't forget about it. Then I need to do the same thing for 3 and 3/8. I have the common denominator of 24. I multiplied 8 by 3 to get to 24, and since I need an equivalent fraction, I need to multiply my numerator by 3 as well. So 3 times 3 gives me 9 for my numerator. And then I'm also going to bring over my whole number 3 so I don't forget about it, and this is an addition problem. So I'm going to start by adding my fractions. I have a common denominator now, so numerator plus numerator. 8 plus 9 is 17. I keep the denominator 24 the same, and then I can add my whole numbers. 2 plus 3 is 5. I can't simplify 17/24, so my final answer is 5 and 17/24. For our next example, we have 7 1/2 minus 3 1/4, and we're going to do subtraction exactly the same way. We're going to start on the right with our fractions, and if I don't have a common denominator, I have to start by finding it. So with 2 and 4, my common denominator is going to be 4. So I can set my fractions up to be ready. I multiplied 2 times 2 to get to 4. And whatever I multiply my denominator by, I have to multiply my numerator by the same thing to have equivalent fractions. So 1 times 2 gives me a numerator of 2. And I'm going to bring my whole number 7 over just so it's set up in the right place in my problem. 1/4 is already in fourth, so I don't need to do anything here but bring over my whole number. And remember, this time we're subtracting. We have a common denominator, so we just need to subtract our numerators. 2 minus 1 is 1. My denominator of 4 remains the same, and then I subtract my whole numbers. 7 minus 3 is 4. I can't simplify 1/4, so 7 1/2 minus 3 1/4 equals 4 1/4. Our next example, we have 2 3/5 plus 4 7/8, and we're going to start by adding our fractions, 3/5 and 7/8. So we're going to need to have a common denominator. With 5 and 8, our common denominator is going to be 40. So let's set our fractions up so that we're ready to go. And we're going to start with the 3/5. We need an equivalent fraction to 3/5 that has 40 as a denominator. So to get to that denominator of 40, I multiplied the 5 times 8. Because I need an equivalent fraction, I need to multiply my numerator by 8. 3 times 8 is 24. And I'm going to bring my whole number 2 over so that it's in the right place and ready to go. Then I need to do the same thing for 4 and 7/8. I need my equivalent fraction to 7/8 with a denominator of 40, which means I multiplied the 8 by 5. So I need to multiply my numerator by 5 so I can have an equivalent fraction. I multiply my denominator and numerator by the same thing. So 7 times 5 is 35. Then I'm going to bring my whole number 4 over so that everything is lined up and I'm ready to go. If I keep my fractions and my whole numbers lined up, I can start on the right with 24 plus 35, adding my numerators because they have a common denominator. If you need to go out to the side to be able to add your numerators so you can see exactly what you have and get those ones and tens places lined up, do that. 24 plus 35 is 59. So I have a numerator of 59 and my denominator is going to remain 40. Then I need to add my whole numbers. 2 plus 4 is 6. So for my sum, right now I have 6 and 59/40. But 59/40 is an improper fraction, so I need to change the 59/40 into a mixed number. And I do that by dividing my numerator by my denominator. So 59 goes on the inside, 40 on the outside. 59 divided by 40 is 1. 1 times 40 is 40, and when I subtract, I get 19. So 59/40 as a mixed number, the quotient becomes my whole number of 1, and my remainder becomes my numerator. So 19 will be my numerator, and my denominator of 40 remains the same. So 59/40 equals 1 and 19/40. So now for my final answer, I need to start by looking at the two whole numbers, 6 and 1. So I have 7 wholes altogether. And then I have the 19/40 from when I turned that improper fraction into a mixed number. So I've already accounted for the 1. So now I need to account for the 19/40. So my final answer is 7 and 19/40. For our final example, we have 6 and 3/10 minus 3 and 1/6. So I'm going to start with my fractions and subtract them first. To subtract my fractions, I need a common denominator. So looking at 10 and 6, that common denominator is going to be 30. So I'm going to set up my fractions with a denominator of 30 so I can see what my steps are going to be to get started with my work. And we're going to start with 6 and 3/10. And what did I multiply 10 by to get to 30? I multiplied the 10 by 3. So because I needed an equivalent fraction, I need to also multiply the numerator by the same thing. So I'm going to multiply the numerator by 3. 3 times 3 gives me a numerator of 9. And I'm going to bring that whole number 6 over so it's in the right place to keep everything lined up in my problem. Then I need to do the same thing with 3 and 1/6. What did I multiply the 6 by to get to 30? I multiplied it by 5. So I need to multiply the numerator by the same thing. I need to also multiply it by 5. 1 times 5 is 5, and I'm going to bring over my whole number and my subtraction sign since we are subtracting. Now that I have common denominators, I can subtract my numerators. 9 minus 5 is 4. My denominator of 30 remains the same. And then I have 6 minus 3. I can subtract my whole numbers. 6 minus 3 is 3. So at this point, I have 3 and 4/30, but 4/30 can be simplified, and so I need to do so. If I notice that both numbers are even, I can use a 2 as a common factor and simplify to 3 and 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. So 6 and 3/10 minus 3 and 1/6 equals 3 and 2/15. Thank you for joining us. Be sure you like this video and subscribe for more videos by Ziva Math.